Welcome to the show. My name's Jeremy Poole, and I'm the host of The Moment, where we explore and celebrate the necessary transformational process you must go through to achieve a high level of success in the real estate industry. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a fantastic guest, my good friend, Eric Guina. Eric is a real estate investor turned real estate entrepreneur with a focus on social impact investing to add value to himself, to his investors, and ultimately the communities that he serves. Eric, welcome on the show.
Jeremy, thanks a lot for inviting me.
You got it, buddy. I'm so excited to dive deeper into your story, dive deeper into where you're at, and just because I just think the audience is just going to love what they hear. Before diving into what brings you here today, I'd love to touch on a little bit about your background as a real estate investor, just to sort of set the tone in terms of where we're at, how you got to where you're at in business, and ultimately where you're trying to move things in the future.
Absolutely. I was lucky. I had a lot of people around me. I didn't do any of this myself. My family, my ability to get higher education, but mainly the ability to surround myself with great people to learn from. I started, like a lot of people, I bought a property.
Okay.
I bought one property.
How old?
I was 21 years old when I bought my first property in West Seattle, and met a guy. He was willing to carry it. And I quickly realized that real estate was for me. Okay. Took a little detour, got into restaurants. Wasn't good at restaurants. My landlord said to me, "You need to take your big mouth and you need to go to Arizona. Arizona is the place where you are going to find success." And by the grace of God, I did.
Nice. And what age, or better yet, where did you start in the country?
Started in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, so you started, and it's my understanding that you also got into the real estate on the sell side as being a real estate agent.
I did. I started at Marcus and Millichat in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the original investment real estate companies. I learned a lot. Okay. But you know what I learned? I learned that the brokers were broker, and they weren't happy. They were working crazy hours. Yeah. They were on the phone all day, and I decided I was going to go a different direction. Okay. And I bought an 8-unit building at 32nd Street and Turney. Mm-hmm. A developer came to us and said, "We want to buy your building, we're going to tear it down." That's the moment when I said there's a different way to do it.
Okay. And that different way was investing in building.
That was investing in well-located properties and increasing the value. Okay. Not investing for a passive return, but actually having a vision. Okay. And earning the money. Gotcha. Creating the opportunity.
Okay. And so you bought your first home at what age?
At 21.
At 21, and then you made your first multi-level family investment at what age?
28.
At 28, okay. And so what happened from there?
From there, we sold the 8-unit building. There was a trend happening in Arizona where people were converting apartments into condos. Okay. So I rolled my money into a 48-unit apartment building. And we went through the process of turning it into individual condos. Wow. But then something happened.
Okay.
It was 2006. And I quickly realized that the market for condos was fading. I got lucky. I had great mentors around me. Yeah. I was feeling the energy of the market. Sure. And I did the best decision I've done in real estate. And that was, I went to my investor, I humbled myself, and I removed myself from the project. And you'll hear it. You'll hear it a lot. The best real estate you'll do is the deal you don't do.
Interesting.
And then the recession hit.
Okay. All right. So now it's 2007, 2008. You dodged a bullet. What was your sort of re-entry into the market?
It was fourplexes. It's where I started. Okay. They had gone down 300%. I took a chance. I went to a mentor of mine, still working with him today, and I said, "Let's take a shot and let's get back in." That was about 2008. At that time, rents were at the floor. The buildings were in shambles. Yeah. People were stealing air conditioners right and left. Really? And we did it. Okay. We bought it. Okay. We filled it up. So we bought the street.
Bought the street.
Bought the street.
Wow. And how large of a acquisition was that in terms of money raised or value acquired?
It was about $600,000.
Okay.
That, there were I think there were 6 of them on that side of the street at the time. Those same properties today, though, because of the market, not because of anybody's skills, not because of any vision, probably worth 2.5, 2.6 today.
Okay.
But at that time, we decided that we were going to get in, reposition, and get out. It was another moment in my career where I realized there is benefit to having vision, changing a street, and removing yourself and letting other people participate in the work that you've done. And that was about when I realized that social impact investing was a real thing. Not as a word, not as a saying, not for some political reason, but actually looking at projects for what you can do for the neighbors, looking at the surrounding areas, and investing your heart and energy, not for profit, but for everyone.
Excellent. I love that. So help us understand, because this term of social impact investing is admittedly a relatively new term for me. Projects right now that sort of fall into that bucket?
We're working on one right now. It's I can't disclose the location yet for different reasons, but it is a Blythe property in Tempe, Arizona. It's been ignored. It's interesting because the reason it's been ignored is because the members of that association argue. They can't get together for a common mission. They ignore the way it's affecting property values. They're ignoring the way it affects the community and the city as a whole. And in my opinion, for greed, a property that could have been developed for the good of the city and for the good of the neighbors has sat there for 25 years.
Okay. So when did you decide to jump into this project, and how did you get wind of it?
I got wind of it by luck, and we're still working on it. Like I said, my success is always driven by the success of others. Of course. I was going through a personal storm. I had lost faith in myself. And really by the grace of God, I got a phone call and I started looking into it. And this project just kept coming to me. I tried to quit twice. The outcome is not guaranteed.
Of course not.
Like anything.
It never is. It never is.
Never is. But when you talk about social impact investing, the project that I'm the most proud of was my assemblage with Grand Canyon University.
Let's hear about that, because that project, as my understanding, is enormous.
It was an enormous feat. I don't think it could ever happen again by Grand Canyon University. And it's really when I realized you can invest, you can get your needs, and you can balance the issues of personal profit and shareholder equity. I learned so much from those guys. They changed education, and I was a small part of it, but I learned a lot. And I learned that main lesson, that you can do real estate development with a vision and with a heart and change people's lives. The benefit of that community we can't even talk about right here, but between tutoring, to the kids, tax values, Habitat for Humanity. Just an amazing project to watch, and I had a small part in it, and it's probably the proudest moment of my life to even have any kind of interest in it.
I love that. Just to give the audience a scale or a scope of the size of the project, can you give us a little bit more information in terms of acreage or any of that?
It's not so much about the scale or the details that really matter. I'm essentially in housing, and I've chosen to focus on affordable. The municipalities, you'll hear it everywhere. There's a need to provide quality housing.
100%, especially now more than ever.
More than ever. And it's been done before. You'll have shelters for women. You'll have, your standard HUD voucher programs. You'll have some tax credits, But what we're really trying to do is we're trying to get off the city's balance sheet. There are enough strains on the cities right now during this pandemic that we are trying to bring the private sector into this development. And we're hoping to change a lot of lives. We are going to take a disenfranchised group of seniors, provide them care, provide them quality living, provide the mass and scale of the development to have a real impact on the retailers and the neighbors of this project, but also free up some of the space in the other multi-housing projects for new people and new families to come into as the cities and other developers figure out a way that they're going to build in this definitely difficult economic environment.
Oh, I'm sure. That's beautiful. That's fantastic.
It's a passion. I'm really, really excited.
I can tell. Eric, as you know, the show's called The Moment. And the individuals I asked to be on my show are individuals that are incredibly accomplished, but also individuals that have gone through some very tough things and have learned through that process and come out stronger and better because of it. Right. Now, you're not only going through a difficult time, but you're choosing to utilize that opportunity to evolve, to not only evolve personally, but also to evolve your business as well. Do you mind diving a little bit into what you're currently going through and how you're utilizing this strength building process to do just that, to build your strength and actually not just go through it, but really grow through it?
You know, from my engagement in the church and reaching out to other people that have had struggles, you won't change. You cannot change without a moment, as you call it. You have to be knocked down. You have to have pain. Yeah. Without going into the details of it, I failed. I failed personally. Okay. I failed in maintaining drive, in perspective. Yeah. And it was an absolute gift because I pulled back. I repaid all my partners and I went to a fresh start. Okay. The thing I realized during that moment was that there needs to be a focus on something other than profit. Right. You cannot succeed in this world anymore without keeping an eye on why you're really doing it. People. Right. It's a people business. I shared with you, and I'll share, with whoever watches this, you will not succeed without people. I have done nothing in my career. I talked about it earlier. Without people. It's very easy in this business. You'll see developers, you'll see individuals stand up, look you in the eye and say, I did this. It's never true. Right. In most cases, it's the market. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the market, it's the opportunity, it's the vision, but you're absolutely right. And that's why I love doing this show. I take great passion in it, is because life can be hard. But life can also be beautiful. And I think it was Einstein, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that you can either decide that the world is a terrible, horrible place, or you can decide it's a wonderful magic land. And I feel like the further you reach and the higher you reach, the more that you're going to go through. You're going to go through struggle. You're going to go through pain. And it's all about how you look at those things. Are you going to be a victim? Or are you going to look at that situation and say, this happened to me, whether it was your fault or not? This happened. You're standing up here like a man and you're saying, I went through some stuff. I made some bad decisions, but you know what I've learned from them? And I'm not just going to improve myself now. I'm actually going to change my focus to ultimately get to the end goal of being successful. Because you're still an incredibly ambitious, driven guy, but you're deciding to reroute your GPS system to focus on helping people. I love that quote from Zig Ziglar. He says, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get everything that you want. And that's sort of what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I ripped out the GPS system during this storm. It's gone. There is no way that I can predict my course anymore. Yeah. It is about the journey and not the destination. Because I tell you what, you take your gifts, you do everything you can, you stand up with a strong back, a vulnerable front, and a wild heart, and you aim for your target and you let that arrow go. And that's where God's will comes in, and that's where you have to realize that you're not in control of everything.
That's beautiful. You're absolutely right. You come into this world, and I think you're given some gifts. Hopefully you have the good fortune of discovering what those gifts are and then spending enough time and energy developing those gifts into something that you do great. And you're obviously incredibly good at what you do. But I think if you're incredibly gifted, you also have hurdles, mountains that are specifically crafted and customized for you. You had yours, and you're still in the process of climbing those mountains, but I can already tell, and I've known you a short period of time, but I can tell that you're just becoming a much better person. And oftentimes, iron is forged into steel through fire. You need to be pounded. You need to be put into a hot furnace, and it's super uncomfortable, and nobody wants to be there.
Nobody wants to be there.
Nobody wants to be there, right? But you come out beautiful. You come out shining. You come out stronger. And here you are smiling, looking healthy. We're having this great conversation. And you're right. Maybe this was a part of your destiny. Maybe you had to go through these very difficult times so you can change your perspective and become really who God designed you to be, man.
I love it. Gifts, they come everywhere, right? It's a cliche, square in a hole, whatever you want to say. I believe it's those storms that show you what you're really good at. You cannot fake being someone else when you're going through a storm. There's no way.
There was a book I read. It said that people are like tea, right? You have a nice package, and you have a tea bag, and you know what to do with the tea bag. It goes into the water. But you're never going to know what that tea tastes like until you put it in the hot water. Right. And it's at that very moment in which not only does the individual discover who they are, but the whole world discovers. And the question becomes, do you like how you taste? Yeah. And it sounds like you found yourself to be delicious.
Again, when you asked me to do this, it's pretty much the first time I've talked about my career or myself. And the only reason I'm doing it is, one, I respect you. I love the moment. There's been some great guys on it. I'm really privileged to be here.
Right on.
But you have to take a skill and combine it with another person.
Yes.
You hear it a lot. It's a body doesn't really work well without all parts. Yeah. And so I have one skill, right? And I'm trying to hone that skill, but I'm also seeking individuals with a like mind that can provide the pieces that I miss. And that's the only way I'm going to make it, and that's the only way the people around me are going to make it.
And I think, it's one thing to win the game and raise the trophy over your head, but it's a whole nother thing when you're doing that with a team, with people, to where you played a role. You find your lane, you find your role, and you play that role the best that you can, and you win as a team. There's nothing better than that. I got into business at a very young age, and for a period of time, I kind of looked at myself like, you're the guy driving it, right? But again, like you brought it, it was the season. Yes, I was skilled in some areas, and yes, if it wasn't for me taking initiative and taking the risk, I wouldn't have achieved those things. But it's always a culmination of the universe, God, whatever you want to put it, in addition to the other people in your life. Because without other people, without you treating other people well, and just doing right by people first and foremost, you're never going to have success for the long term. Because regardless if it's real estate development, investing, you need people to need and want you to win, to really win how you need to win, which is when you actually do accomplish your goals, that you have people around you that are like, yes, that person deserves that.
That's another thing I learned in the storm. I used to think I knew what was winning. I don't know anymore, right? Because
that's good. That's good.
Who's winning? What are we winning? Why do I get to come out of the storm? We've got an opioid epidemic. People are dying. They're dying from the choices they made. Why me? Why am I out of the storm? And so there's other people who are doing the same things I'm doing, but haven't had the opportunity to meet some of the people that I've met. Are they failing? They're not failing. They haven't found it yet. There's no timeline, and that's why I talk about the journey. I'm super blessed to be here. I'm super thanks for having me, right? I even lost my words. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to talk to you, and it helps me. It's like a teacher. You only solidify the knowledge you have by sharing it with somebody else. And
right on, brother. Well, I super appreciate you being here and being on the show. I'm looking forward to doing a part 2 and a part 3 as things progress. And thank you for watching. Make sure that you tune in next week.